Okay, we are going to have a visit with Keith Stribling. He has a company, Valley Speed Center. He deals with a lot of vintage drag racing, and we are going to have a look and talk about his 1959 Corvette. It's a very unique car, modified for racing in the period, and has been kept intact as parked from racing. So very interesting history and a very cool opportunity to have a look. So I'm glad to bring you the video. Enjoy. Yeah, well, first of all, let's start at the very beginning. What is this car?
Yeah.
This car is a 59 Corvette, original black car. It's got, right now it has 43,000 actual miles on it. My son and I located this car outside Phoenix in Tonopah. We went to a guy's place to buy some parts from him, and my son noticed back in the far corner a car under a tan car cover. And we asked what it was, and the guy who owned the car said it was his 59 Corvette that he used to drag race when he was a kid. And I said, seriously? And he said, yeah. I said, so what does it look like? And it literally would have taken us 2 hours to get to this car. It was so buried back in this Quonset hut. He went into the house and came back and brought out a photograph and showed me a color 8x10 that he had taken in a cemetery. He said he always took pictures of his car in a cemetery because the grass was always green. And it was kind of funny. We all had a laugh. And he said, this is what it looks like. I said, it's lettered and everything like this? He said, it looks exactly like this. I said, is this car for sale? And he said, no, I'll never sell this car. And we hear that a lot. And I remained friends with him over the years. And I would see him at the swap meets and we would talk, and I would always ask him if the Corvette was for sale. And it was always no, that it wasn't for sale. Well, after COVID, his job during COVID was to transport cars for NASCAR and IndyCar. And I knew that he wasn't working, so I thought now's the time to hit him up to see if this car is for sale. So I saw him again at that little local swap meet and asked him, is the Corvette for sale yet? And he didn't say, no, it's not for sale.
Oh, that's a good sign.
And he said, I'm from Flint, Michigan, and I'm going back to Flint next Wednesday. And I asked him if I could come out Tuesday and look at this car. So my son and I went out Tuesday, and it took us literally an hour and a half to get to this car to uncover it. And it was the first time that I had seen this car when I lifted the car cover off that front fender. When I got to it 20 years later.
Oh my God, look at that.
When I uncovered the first part of the film, that's the first time in 20 years that I saw that car actually.
After talking about it for 20 years.
Yep. And then we just kept rolling it back.
Tell us what you felt. What did you feel when you see that?
I still get goosebumps thinking about that this car was sitting here all that time.
Peak. That first peak is the thing that really sets your mind to think. It
really does. And saw the lettering that was done in 1964 that literally looked like it was done last Tuesday.
Yeah.
The story behind this car to get it to Arizona was Mike, the owner of the car, grew up in Flint, Michigan. In 1959, a doctor in town bought this car brand new, and Mike used to see it every day as he went to work. Long story short, it became for sale, and Mike ended up buying the car from the doctor. In 1963, he had it lettered, had a date code 62327 built for it, Mickey Thompson cross ram, 2 Hollies, Borg Warner 4-speed, all the best of everything for a race car, and started to drag race it. He raced it in B modified production for about 1.5 years, and then they changed that class, and so he went to B modified sports car and raced it then and was pretty successful. There's 2 decals in the far window over there, both from 1964 when it was raced at Detroit Dragway and at Daytona Beach Drag Strip. He raced it until 1966 at the drag strip. Then the class was not good anymore, so he took it off the road and he started street racing the car. And he street raced it just like this until 1968. He parked the car in his mom's garage, put a car cover on it. In 1979, he moved to Arizona, to Tonopah. And he covered the car up in the corner of this Quonset hut like we had seen it. And it sat there until I was able to buy the car from him.
Wow.
I told him, and this car is special to him. This is his childhood car, and that's why it was never for sale. But he knows that I'm kind of a historian in the early vintage drag racing world. And I told him, as long as I own this, as long as I am on Earth, I will own this car. And it will not be resto modded or anything. I took this car and waxed it and brought it all back to like it was in 1968 when it last ran on the road. I am this close to getting the car running, spark plug wires, rebuilding the carburetor, and this thing will rock the earth again.
Wow.
So I have become the new caretaker for this car, and I'm very pleased that he chose me to let me be the caretaker of this car.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so special awesome. Cars have that important thing to consider. In my world, the cars that I've got, one of them is from my dearest friend. That's a 289 Cobra, and we had the same understanding that as long as we knew each other, which is now 45, 50 years, the car's not going anywhere.
Yep.
And I actually have loaned it to him. I told him at the time that he was very distraught over selling it in the first place, and so I told him, it was always going to be available to him, and I made it available to him. So if people understand that you really care about them, they'll sometimes sell you the car.
They do, and that's what happened. I did not pressure him. I did not, browbeat him to try to buy this car.
It wouldn't have worked anyway.
It would not have worked. Right. And you know, JB, that I have a little car gathering at my house here, and I worked feverishly to get this car back in this condition, because a lot of the chrome was taken off, the bumpers were taken off. To have it at my little car show at the house, and Mike showed up, and he was literally thrilled to see this car back out. Yeah. And the group of people that are looking at this car and hearing the history of this car, he was like a proud father, and this was his child that he was showing off. And I actually got a tear in my eye to see him looking at it and stand by it. And people found out that it was his car originally, and they wanted him to pose by it and take pictures, and it was a proud day for him. He's kind of a quiet, reserved guy, and this was his day to shine, and it made me happy that he was able to get by the car and relay the stories to it and talk to these people when he doesn't say a full sentence to anybody. Yeah. It was just a special day.
Yeah, and it's a piece of history, and unfortunately a lot of these cars have been modified repeatedly and then mistakenly brought back to stock, or some other strange thing happens to them. And it's people need to see this. It's a three-dimensional historical object that people don't get to see. They see photographs that are flat and two-dimensional. When you walk around this car, you can spend an hour and a half just taking in all the little details that are
seriously,
still in place.
You can. And it's a moment in time setting here.
It's like freeze frame in this era, and it was an era when I was involved in drag racing at this point too. So I remember some of these cars, and this is a very individual car. This is obviously built by one human, and not some company, and not some guy with a lot of money given to him. He did this out of a love for what he was doing, and probably got a tremendous amount of joy out of it. And it's great that you've preserved it for everyone else to see.
Yeah, this car was literally 4 years old when he decided to make a drag car out of it.
Yeah, which was not that's not that usual. Usually they're much older.
Yeah, exactly.
They kind of lost their value and their importance in the world. But
now, talking about a time capsule, it seems that even the wheels and tires are
they're original.
Yeah,
it was sponsored by Pure Oil Company, and those front tires are Pure Oil tires.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So yeah, these are old nylon.
They're not even that bad of shape.
They're bias ply, and they're holding air.
There's the Pure logo right there.
I don't even see any cracks in them.
Nope.
Did you get these with the car, or
yes.
were you able to get them later?
No, those are the ones that are on the car.
So are these magnesium wheels?
They're magnesium wheels.
Real magnesium.
The front wheels are.
I understand there's a magnesium wheel and a mag wheel.
Right.
It's not the same thing.
The front wheels are 1964 magnesium Americans. Right. They're much lighter than aluminum wheels.
Right.
So for a race car, you want to get all the weight off of it.
Sure.
The back wheels are even rarer. Those are Romeo Palomides wheels. They're also magnesium. You can tell the Palomides wheels because they have just 4 small slots in them.
Right.
Halibrands have 5 slots in them. Romeo Palomides is the guy who eventually made American racing equipment and did the American mags.
He was the progenitor of that.
He was the guy.
Okay.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, a lot of history here.
Lot of history. He knew Romeo Palomides very well.
Really?
Yep, he knew him very well, and that's why he has these wheels in the
It's
car.
not just a coincidence those wheels are on there.
No. Very few people. That's probably the most asked question I get when I show this car is, what are those back wheels?
Yeah.
And they're called Palomides.
Well, you were really fortunate to be able to catch it at this point, because a lot of the cars were updated in the same ownership.
Exactly.
And then updated again and updated again.
When he changed
He
glasses,
just
he
froze
should have
frames.
changed engines and
Yeah,
changed this
right,
and
but he
changed that
didn't.
to stay up with the classes,
Yeah.
but he did not. He
No.
wanted it like this.
Yeah.
And that's why it stayed like this to today.
We should go around the front of the car and see the air cleaners. Some Corvette guys rolling over.
What can you tell me about these air cleaners? I don't know.
Those air cleaners were originally made by Nixon Engineering, and they're for boats. They actually had flame arresters that would go in the front that were screens.
Really?
So when it backfired, it would not catch it on fire. Mickey Thompson actually made some of these on his own with the Nixon pattern, and had these. This is the only set that I've ever seen
Wow.
with the MT.
with the MT.
How about the air cleaners on the hood, or the scoops?
The scoops on the hood are Cal Custom, early aluminum cast Cal Custom
I
scoops.
just love those things.
Yeah, they just have
offset.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just-
they have a
like
great
that?
great
Ah.
look to them. A great look to
yeah,
them.
it's just wicked.
A lot of guys on their gassers would run one of these on the hood. This is the first car I've ever seen with 2, and it was obvious why, because with that Mickey
Sure.
Thompson cross ram, he needed them staggered
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
so
when you're
that
going 100 miles an hour, there's a lot of air coming.
oh yeah, he's forcing air right into the carburetors.
It actually functioned.
Is there any significance to this Bardal sticker?
Not really.
Okay.
It's still period though.
Yep,
right?
yep. They're all
And it's
they're
got a
all
Corvette on it.
yeah they're all
What year
period.
is that Corvette?
That Corvette is a 62. No, that
3,
uh,
I think.
it's a 63. Yep.
How did I know that? I'm not a
Yep.
Corvette
That's Mr. Bardal.
guy. I love Corvettes. I never had one.
All right, and here are the vintage stickers on the windshield you were talking about.
Yep. And those have been on there since 1964. This is literally a time capsule.
Yeah, it's like you just jumped from 1964 to today.
Exactly. You could take black and white pictures of this and you would think you were in 1964.
That's right.
Do these trophies relate directly to this car?
They were won by this car.
Okay, and maybe you could tell us about one of those. 'Cause they obviously won his class, right?
Class winner at Detroit Dragway.
Right on.
The old adage of nobody cares who finished second, it was really, really true.
Literally first
If you
click.
finished second, you just threw the trophy over the fence. And,
That's the same way, class winner Detroit Dragway.
okay.
Detroit Dragway wasn't a real big deal. It was a pretty small racetrack.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was big in his world.
It was big in his world because it was
the
in
only
his
drag
it
race
was in
around.
his world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So he had fun. So you were kind of like the third owner of this car, so to speak.
Yep. Literally the third owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually these have been through a lot of pinkies by this point. But you know, it's also race cars
And this is
are in better shape in a lot of ways because they haven't had the pounding of the road and
this is the best part of this car.
14 odors. Look at that.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
For a fiberglass car.
Yep.
Is the trunk
I
just
hope
a
your
gas
next
tank?
company has to make your car door shut like that.
Yeah. Well, they do. Oscar closed them the other day.
He's a fanatic.
He is. I love Oscar. He's a great
it's
guy.
Incredible.
Now, is the trunk just a gas tank, or is there more going on in the back?
These are the taillights
No,
from
there's
heaven, by the way.
there's nothing
Look at
in the
those
back. No
taillights.
spare
I mean,
tire.
you
The only
can't-
thing that's in the back is the battery.
Okay. Wow.
That
That's,
taillight is just,
like you
Yeah.
said, the lettering is so
It's artwork.
beautiful.
it's the most, it's
Wow.
the best taillight I've ever seen.
Yeah, like I had originally told you, I did lettering when I was a kid. I lettered boats, I lettered race cars, and I can feel the brush strokes in this paint. And it was done in 1964. It's just
That
incredible that
is
it survived.
Kept indoors,
Fabulous.
right?
Yep.
And covered up inside.
Look at this cute little sign down here,
Yep.
Barry Buckner sign.
That's fantastic. Wow, what a car. What a treasure.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it's a
I'm
treasure.
very, very proud to own this car.
Wow. All right, well, you know what? We're going to have to invite ourselves back when you have it fired up and running.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
So we can hear it run?
Breathe life.
Well, in April, the Bill Gusick Racers Reunion is going on again,
Okay.
and it'll be up there running.
Now, where
Okay.
are they gonna, where are
It's
they
going to
run?
it's going to be, I believe it's going to be back at the racetrack, at the go-kart track, up by the water park on 43rd and Pinnacle Peak.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yep, that's where they had the last one.
Okay. There's a drag strip there? Or
No, there's no drag strip.
It's
It's
just
just a
place
bunch
to
of
be.
areas so they can display all the cars, and they
Gotcha.
have booths and stuff
Okay.
there.
Very cool.
Well, Keith, thank you so much. This
Welcome.
is really fantastic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to share it with people because, I mean, you just don't see stuff like this.
No, it's really true.
You really don't.
To see that lettering
yeah.
and to see the paint on this car, this is
Now
an
you
original paint
imagine,
car.
Oh my God, I hope the rest of it's like this.
Yep.
And then it was.
I hope it's not crunched in the back
well,
or something,
you know,
right?
usually, like I said, it's been
You don't
through
know.
a number of iterations, which sometimes
And we
are not so
we
kind
peeled
to.
the hood off of it and set it aside, and that's the first glimpse I got at the engine. Then took pictures of the stuff in the windows, and took pictures of the inside, and just kept uncovering it. And I asked him about this. He said his best friend had an Allard, and he had the Vet, so they had the Allard Vet racing team.
How
Now, that's a very unlikely odd couple, right?
Yes,
there.
right.
it is.
Allard and Vet.
Yep. And there's when we started moving stuff. That's Mike. That's the guy I bought it from. When we started moving stuff to get it out of its tomb.
All this for only $300,000. You know, it just was.
There's
I
the
think
4-speed that was sitting in the trunk, the rear brake drums, and that's
here's one of the dilemmas of doing this. When you look at it for the first time, and here's this guy who built it, but hasn't seen it in so many years. He doesn't even know if everything is there. And then you got to figure out. I've had this happen. The guy puts, oh, that's everything, and you drive away, and then something's missing, you know, and some giant part that you forgot because you're so excited to get out of there.
one thing he was very methodical about,
Yeah.
labeling the boxes and all this stuff. So I knew I had everything.
Yeah.
That's the first time it had seen the light of day since 1982.
So it wasn't really all that bad. To be
No.
It just needed some.
It was just
TLC.
dirty. He had taped newspaper across it, and so it kind of, there was residue of tape, and so I had to take wax
Yeah.
and grease remover and get it all
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
That's it being backed into my building, and there's the original wheels that I got for it, and then I started waxing it and compounding it and bringing the paint back up. That's when I very first started polishing
It's
it.
hard to imagine the quality of paint back then.
This is black lacquer. Yep.
This is black nitro lacquer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Nitrocellulose lacquer.
And it's just forever. I mean, unless you bake it out in the sun for like 20 years.
And that's when I did this side.
Great
I did
stuff.
the back, then I started putting the chrome back on, put all the front bumpers and everything back on. Still got the writing on the door. Well, to tell you the other part of the story that I didn't include, in 1979, when he got ready to move out here from Flint, Michigan to Tonopah, he was going to restore this car.
Ooh.
And he went to Chevrolet. He's in Flint.
Yeah.
He went to Chevrolet and bought every new piece of trim for this. All the side trim, new bumpers, new grille, new back bumpers, everything he could buy to restore this, he bought for this car. But he never got around to it. He just took off the old stuff and he kept it. And so when I bought the car from him, he told me this story. He said, "Do you want the old stuff and the new stuff?" I said, "I want everything that is associated with this car."
Sure.
He said, "Are you going to put the new stuff on?" I said, "No.
No, why would I do that?
I'm putting the old stuff back on, just like it was back in the day.
It's either original or it isn't.
I want those scrapes. I want those dents. They all tell a story."
Yeah, they do.
And so I bolted all the old stuff back on it and kept all the new stuff. A lot of the new stuff is at your building for my 61 that you're doing.
So you were rewarded.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So
Very
yeah,
good.
thank goodness that he didn't go through with restoring it, because he
Well,
had
it's either original or it isn't.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as
Yep.
90%.
And as a bonus, you've got new parts for your 61.
Yep. It was a win-win situation without a doubt.
That's fantastic.
Because I wanted it. I got every piece that was used and put it in there. The used screws, the used bolts. I cringed when I had to put a brand new lock washer on the grill. Nobody's going to see it, but I just went,
But it's going to show, and you know it's there.
It ate at me that I had to put a new lock washer on it.
Yeah. Did you distress it a little bit first?
Yeah, I put it out in the backyard and turned the hose on it.
Yeah.
Soak it in vinegar or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beat it with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I do love this car because of what it is and because of the history. Yeah.
Oh, this is fantastic.
If it wasn't even a drag car, it'd be easy to love. I don't remember seeing a lot of black ones.
Yep.
But boy, does it complement the shape of this car.
Oh yeah,
it really does.
It really does. There's so many curves and
look at this. I mean, it just
bends, and
flows like
you know, you get the shadows and the bright spots off of it. It just looks great. And I learned this from you last time that they didn't make Corvettes to be straight. And you look down this car, and this car is wavy.
Yeah.
But my 61, you had told me that somebody had done something to that because it was straight, and no Corvette ever came from the factory that straight.
No, they don't. And at some point, someone put, hopefully, the proper primer on it, and it let it settle down. And then when you block sand it, you've accounted for all of that stuff. In other words, you got 3 little mountains, and you cut them off.
Yep.
And they're not coming back.
Yep, exactly.
But if you start and try and do it freshly, it's a bit much more difficult. Because the material shrinks to a certain degree. The stuff we have now is so much better. What we didn't talk about with this nitrocellulose lacquer is the primer underneath it. Obviously, the primer must have been pretty good as well because it has held up all these years.
Yeah, there's no kind of checking or cracking or anything.
It never got out on the street very much at all.
Yep.
So that's probably what protected it.
Yep.
So it's interesting from a lot of different points of view. But this is, got so much more character than a car that's stripped down. And
yeah, it does. Because
you
you can't fake this.
No, there's no way.
You can do patina paint jobs, but you can't fake this and look underneath it and look at the history with this car and the photographic history I have of it from day one through. You can't fake that. So this car is what it is.
Sports cars were not that common in drag racing at all.
Nope.
And on the Ford side, they had the Dragon Snakes, but there were only a handful of those that were built. It just doesn't make any sense to have a sports car in drag racing. There was a kind of a genre problem there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys just didn't want to do that. And if they're gonna drag race a Ford or a Chevrolet, they were gonna have a sedan or a coupe or some earlier car, and some of the foreign cars were used, the Anglias and the Fiats and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But very rarely did you see an actual drag car built out of a sports car.
Yeah.
So it makes it even rare.
That's why they created the sports car class.
Yeah.
That's why he had to go to be modified sports car.
And doing that.
Yep. So they made a class for him.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you for watching, following along with JB and I as we either talk about his projects or others. We really appreciate your comments and your likes. We very much want to hear from you. So if you have a moment, send us a note. Let us know what you're thinking about our channel. Have a great day.